Welcome back to the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show with Wisk and Kev, coming to you live on a Friday night from the Salisbury Center studios.
And live from the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show Facebook feed.
Woohoo!
All right, so this is like a new pattern, new habit. So if you're not watching on Facebook now and you're catching this after the fact, we're going to make the fact known that you can catch us there, as well as other avenues such as YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
Yep, and we're part of the Wylde Style Network, fueled by Monster Energy.
Yes, sir.
And like we mentioned, it's a Friday night rock night, or leading into a big rock weekend here at the Salisbury Center.
Would you say tonight is, heavier, for lack of better words? Medicine Man, I don't know, like a heavy band, but they got some heavy to them.
They do. Yeah. They got a little heavy to them.
They got some soul to them also.
They do.
Some smooth.
Whereas, tomorrow night is the 80s night with the Reflex.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a little...
Get some pop in there.
Yeah, a little all over the place, I think.
Yeah. Get some pop, get some rock.
Yep.
Yeah. From that great decade.
Yeah. And so it's been a couple of weeks since we've had a show. Sometimes real life and real jobs and stuff get in the way. But... So, figured we'd catch up a little bit. There's been some new album releases. Some of us got to go check out a show recently.
Yeah.
And figure we can chat a little bit about that. Yeah. And, we're approaching the end of the calendar year.
Glad you brought that up. Yeah.
So I know we're going to plan to do kind of our 2023 and recap.
Yes.
As wrapping up the first year of the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show.
Yes, sir. Congratulations, Kevin. I'm glad you're bringing all of this up. Yes. I was thinking the same way.
And then, obviously, one of the big things coming out now is a lot of the summer shows and planning is coming up.
Sweet time of year.
So, yeah. So, let's talk about Dirty Honey.
Yeah, so like to back up a little bit of what you're saying. All right, I think this is probably like our last show where it's kind of like a normal, for lack of better words, 2023 show.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that we're going to be like wrapping up 2023 in future conversations, because a lot of great things has happened in 2023, and a lot of sad things in some ways. Like, as Mr. Salisbury likes to say, all roads lead back to Kicks. As an example, we'll talk about the end of that great band as a part of our wrap up, because that did happen this year. And so like as a part of, I think, where we are right now, I don't know if it's so much true in streaming formats, but there's new album releases, that are happening before the holiday time.
Yep.
And then especially back in the days when you purchased music, it was especially being released now before Thanksgiving.
Correct.
And yes. I feel like that pattern is somewhat still there.
I think so. Yeah, at least with some of the rock stuff that's come out recently.
Right. We've seen a little burst of things that have been released over the past several weeks that we may have been like moving out a little bit more slowly a couple months before that, earlier in the fall, but now like the holiday times are around. So we'll talk about, I think we had to talk about in two ways, a band that you and I both dearly love, Dirty Honey. Yes. So you want to, I'll let you talk about the album first.
The album is phenomenal. It's, And they could serve up probably a steaming pile of shit. And the band is just great. So, but I think this is.
And with the album title?
No.
Did I hit you?
You did hit me.
Can't stop.
Can't find the brakes.
Can't find the brakes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's phenomenal. So you can see how they've grown as a band.
Yes.
How they've grown as songwriters.
Mm-hmm.
And, coming out of COVID, they had the California Dreaming album, which is pretty good.
Glad you brought that up.
And listening and reading some articles, listening to some interviews, what I found remarkable about this new album, and I think says a lot about the recording process and how things happened to a certain extent during COVID. That album was very kind of disjointed in how they recorded it and worked with their producer.
Sure.
Where, Mark LaBelle was saying how it was great to get everybody in the same room and had some new ideas and different ways of doing things. And that really showed on this album.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I get asked a lot when we talk about Dirty Honey, because they're not an enormous name yet. I think they're known. They're definitely known in rock circles, but they're not, they're not like Taylor Swift. They're not a household name. So, you know, and it is, what kind of rock and roll are they? Because everybody loves subgenres, right?
Yep.
Is it thrash metal? Is it death metal? Is it punk? Is it grunge? Is it post grunge? Is it emo? You know, like all of those kind of places that we go. And the only way I can describe, I don't know how you feel about this, is they're just like when we had our show about classic rock. They're not a classic rock band. They're a younger band.
Right.
You know, and they are a newer act. They're generating a lot of great new original material. Of course, on this last album, they did the same. But, you know, to me, like classifying them is like classifying Aerosmith or classifying AC/DC, hard rock bands that are just great, have a great, for lack of better words, classic sound, because I don't want to make them sound old by saying that they're classic rock, but they're a straight up the gut, just blues based rock band that just has an amazingly, you know, timeless sound.
I agree. And I think it sort of speaks to some of the conversations we've had about Kix.
Yes.
Who kind of got lumped into the hair metal genre.
Right.
I think just because of when they kind of had their most popular albums and songs and stuff that was on MTV at that time. But they are also just, you know, a straight ahead blues-based rock band.
Right.
You hear the roots in AC/DC and Aerosmith and stuff through their music.
Yeah.
But that's not all they are.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So. I know. So I feel like if Dirty Honey, you know, in terms of the times and just not necessarily even I don't want to again make their song sound old in terms of their sound, but just even the way that music is released now and advertised now and promoted now, they're just a little bit, you know, behind the times, because I think that some of the bands that we've talked about and discussed from the past 25 years or so, they would have been released 25 years ago under those same circumstances. I think they would have blown most of them away.
Yeah.
You know,
well, and, you know, for the most part, you know, they toured with Black Crowes for a bit, but it was a short stint. They did the very, very short stint most recently with GNR. Mm-hmm. But I think if they were to catch on to one of the tours that's coming out this summer, like supposedly Motley Crue is doing some form of a stadium series deal again. If they got onto something like that, where they're probably going to get a lot more exposure to people who are a larger audience base, I think they would blow up.
Another like classic sound, Guns N' Roses. Like, what do you call Guns N' Roses in terms of the hard rock that they are, you know, or the metal band that they are? It's just a classic sound. Yeah, and Dirty Honey would fit right in with them. Right. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that Black Crowes piece, because it, like my little bend, if we wanted to dive a little deeper in terms of the tone and the sound of the album, I felt I heard more Southern tones in this album than their prior albums. And I thought that was really cool. They're Mark LaBelle as a vocalist. I can't think of anybody better right now. I mean, maybe Miles Kennedy. I'm wearing an Alter Bridge shirt. You know, he's one of my favorite like active vocalists right now. But Mark LaBelle is certainly up there. And like to get to the live show. So I was fortunate enough, and I missed you because I know how much I thought of you actually, Kevin, because you talked about in a prior podcast the Greta Van Fleet show, and how uplifting that was, and how great it was to be in like a rock and roll crowd that really loved being a part of that live show. And that happened again on a smaller scale. It was at the Rams Head in Baltimore, so it was a smaller club. It wasn't the Capital One Arena, and it was the same feel. It was like a fresh, younger crowd. There was an older, you know, element to it too. But you know, and Dirty Honey as a live act has always been amazing. But somehow they upped it. They hit another gear. And I think it was Mark LaBelle. I got to give him the props. There was some vocals in there and some notes that he hit that I hadn't heard before, very confidently and very in the face of the audience and connecting with the audience as a front man. And it was a beast of a show. I always say I nearly lost my girlfriend. I nearly lost my girlfriend again that night. You know, so it was, you know, she definitely had that reaction. And so if they're really kind of in the first third of their tour, you know, the tour dates that they have. So if you happen to hear this, you haven't heard the band, listen to the band. Can't Find the Breaks is a great album. So you can stream that and, of course, see the live show. I feel like they're a bit of Buck Cherry-esque in terms of the Road Dogg never-ending tour band. Oh, for sure.
And so, they've already announced their European dates, and you know, we've already seen them on a couple of the early summer festival gigs too. So they're going to be back, and they're going to be all over the place.
In form, and supporting a great album. I don't really, the other thing too, like about this album, like I said, dive a little bit deeper into it, which was kind of surprising to me. Like Mark LaBelle has never been one for backing vocals. And there are more backing vocals in this album, surprisingly, than have been in prior albums.
Yeah, a lot of layers to the vocals.
Yep. So there was really, it was a great expansion for him. And it's not to take away, we talk about this, right? With like backing tracks.
Right.
And what you just don't see any of that. There's no question when you're at this live show that it is a live show with like very talented musicians at their peak. So, that's where I sit. I can't wait to go to the next Dirty Honey show with you.
I will be there, one way or the other. Is Scott in there?
Did we lose Scott on the? Because we were gonna talk about. Well, let's talk about some other. Are there any other upcoming or recently released music? We just talked obviously extensively about Dirty Honey, but in terms of holiday shopping, and albums that you want to like add to your library and
or
not
maybe
necessarily buy.
You don't want to necessarily
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were chatting this past weekend, when we were here for the fights here at the Salisbury Center, talking about the new Don Dokken. When we were riding back with our buddy Eric. So Dokken has a new album out, and I think the times have sort of passed a little bit for what he's capable of singing. I thought, given that album a listen through or two, and, the music's good. The band that he's performing with is good, but it's just not the same Don Dokken.
Right.
So,
and I would say the same of his live show. And that's, I feel like it's, we talk about bands with backing tracks, and anything that I've seen with Don Dokken in terms of his most recent performances, they don't seem to be there. But there is a loss, like in terms of performance. So that's always to me, like as a live music goer, it's something you have to kind of compromise with. Do you want to see that or not? Is it worth that price?
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm an enormous Dokken fan. You know that. Like I just love the death out of some old Dokken. And so I still can go, you know what I mean? And hopes of seeing like some of that great stuff. But yeah, I guess it's just a part of, singing especially is a physical act. And so like being an athlete, as you age, you're just not able to pull it off like you used to. So,
yeah. And then obviously, I think we talked a little bit briefly on one of the previous shows, but obviously still in the Dokken vein, Lynch Mob has released their new album. So that's out and available for purchase and streaming, what have you. That's a phenomenal album.
Yes.
I'm forgetting his name right now, but the new vocalist is great. Reminds me very much of Oni Logan.
Young vocalist too.
Yes, he is young. Yeah. He, they were kind of giving him a hard time at that show at the Tally Ho that I was at, because obviously George has been around for a bit, and the other guys in the band were a little bit older, but yeah, he's very young. I think in like his mid-20s.
Yeah.
But that's a great album. Folks want to check that out if you haven't already.
Right.
And a couple other things. Mick Mars.
Yes, I was
released the first track off of his
you were going
album.
to go there next. Yeah.
Yeah, and Priest just released a new track too, but both of those aren't coming out until 2024.
Right. I'm going to give a shout to an album that I've been listening to, which is The Struts and Pretty Vicious. So, The Struts is party rock, and it's not glam metal. You kind of want to start to go down that road. It's almost, like British glam, like and obviously the Struts are British, so I don't mean it in that sense. But before there was glam metal in the United States, or some people refer to it as hair metal, there was glam that came out of England. So, Sweet, T-Rex, in that vein. And I feel a lot of Queen also that exists with the Struts and their approach.
Okay.
And it's just fun music. That is like, so, and I think sometimes it's missing from rock and roll, especially like metal and hard rock. It can get pretty angry and depressing and serious pretty quickly, and that's not bad. Those are great elements to music, but the party needs to be there too. And I feel like sometimes that party is looked at as being superficial. I think it's hard to have a party, and the party that everybody wants to go to, and not look cheesy. And these guys don't do that. And I saw them live back in the summer. Another great live performance. So Pretty Vicious by the Struts came out. It's definitely worth a listen. So that's another one that I've found in my holiday library ad.
Awesome.
Holiday album shopping.
Yeah, and I think we got Scott back, so I think he can pull up the link. There's a recent release on Loudwire talking about 20
into the
new
summer. We're not even wrapped up 2023.
I know.
We're diving into the summer of 2024 because you do have to start buying tickets for.
You do, and a lot of them are on sale already as
holiday presents, possibly.
So there's a kind of a wide range of bands that they listed, but 3 that stood out to me. One of them is Perry Farrell and Porno for Pyros are touring.
Yes.
So they announced that they got back together and that they were doing a tour.
Yeah.
And that it's their farewell tour.
And you never know, like Perry Farrell, like to me throws.
Hold right there though, Scott. Go back then. Yep, right there, because that's.
You're going to pause at that tour.
Yes, that's where we want to.
All right, you're going to go to there next.
Yes.
But getting back to like Perry Farrell and Porno for Pyros or Perry Farrell solo or Jane's Addiction, you don't know. To me, like that is always a wild card as to what he's going to pull up and how you're going to see like some incarnation of whatever, music event he's participating in. So, yeah. So you believe that it's their last time around, or you think they're going to?
No. Yeah. Not at all.
Right.
It never is, right? Even Kiss, who has announced their farewell tour, I saw that they did an interview on one of the websites, and Gene Simmons. So they haven't even played the last show, which is coming up in a couple of weeks in New York City.
Yeah.
But then he's like, "Well, it's the last time we're going to perform in makeup."
Yeah.
So So now it's like, well, what does that mean?
Right.
Like, so now it sounds like they may come back and just be Kiss, but
from 1985. Yeah, the 1985 version. Yeah.
So the one that really struck me that recently was just announced, and I think is just going to be a great, very cool summer tour,
of course,
is Sammy Hagar, and it's not Sammy Hagar and the Circle,
right?
But it's Sammy Hagar with Michael Anthony, Joe Satriani, and Jason Bonham.
Yes.
And it's the reported Eddie Van Halen tribute.
Yes.
So,
which he's wanted to do. Like he was, I think he would, because we see other news, right? I'm sure you've read other news about him trying to rope in Alex Van Halen and even David Lee Roth, as a part of this circus, because it would become the circus.
Absolutely.
Not the circle, but the circus.
Right.
Like if those two were added in. But I mean, we've seen Sammy a lot. No such thing as a bad Sammy show.
Nope.
Yeah.
So
and for me, I'm gonna throw out this Loverboy's opening. So I'm not a big fan of that name, but I love the band. I don't know how they came up with the name. In fact, I won't buy one of their shirts. Like, this is my confessional, because it will say Loverboy on it, which feels really weird in this day and age. Like, people in the 80s might have gotten that, but be some 20-year-olds be like, what's that old man? Like, rolling around with a Loverboy shirt on. Yeah. So but anyway, I mean, great tunes. If you haven't gotten into any Loverboy or forgot about them, go back and listen to some, because they're another great live band. So I think that's a good double bill.
Yep. And they're coming to Jiffy Lube here in Manassas.
Yep.
In July. So looking forward to that one.
We'll sweat it out.
We will.
Yeah.
It's been a couple summers since I've been to the Lube.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't really focused on rock the way that they have in the past. There's been some rock shows, but it's been mainly rap and country, out at that venue.
And then obviously Priest has the new album coming out, so they're going on tour.
Yes.
They'll be here. I think it's in March time frame. Yep.
Yeah.
So lots of good stuff coming down the pike for 2024.
Talking about 2024, but I know we're going to talk a lot about 2023, and of course, reflect back on our year, our first year, because we launched literally the first week in January of 2023. Yeah. So we've had actually a lot of episodes. I think we're in the 60s in terms of the episodes that we've pumped out.
Yep.
There might be a few more that we haven't pumped out that we just, still podcasted live and did our thing, but we just didn't necessarily post the recordings.
That is true.
So there's good stuff out there to reflect back on. Yeah,
it was a great year, and this has been a lot of fun, and I want to thank Lou for coming up with the idea of bringing us in to do this. And, so looking forward to
my pleasure. Good job, guys.
Bigger and better things next year. And, like we mentioned earlier, it's Friday Night Live, and we got Medicine Man in the house going to be performing here as part of Big Mike's birthday celebration. And I think we're going to be getting them up here in the studio with us here shortly, chatting it up again with the guys from Medicine Man.
Yes.
So we'll take another quick break, and then we'll be back with Medicine Man.